1987, director Joel Schumachers released a movie that would define a generation and revitalize the vampire genre, an intelligent coming-of-age horror story that was disguised as a teen comedy. The movie featured an adolescent cast but did not pander to an adolescent audience and delivered one of the most surprising and entertaining movies of the 1980s. So how did this all happen? We'll sit back and relax and discover everything you ever wanted to know about the Lost Boys. In 1985, hopeful actress Janice Fisher began a career as a screenwriter. After some minor success writing for shows like Tough Cookies and The Golden Girls, Fisher wrote a treatment to a screenplay aimed at a young audience. She would assist an old school friend, James Jeremias, to help develop his writing skills. When discussing their favorite stories, J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan became a topic. Jeremias asked Fisher why Peter Pan would never grow old, how he could fly, and why he only ever came out at night. Fisher was confused by the riddle until Jeremias informed her it was because Peter Pan was a vampire. At this notion, Fisher was immediately drawn to the concept of childlike vampires and intended to write a screenplay. Not wanting to plagiarize her long-term friend, she enlisted Jeremias as co-author to the project. The original script would see 6th grade children versus 9th grade vampires and the Frog Brothers as Boy Scouts. Written with the intent of a G rating, a setup that would change greatly. When completed, the script caused a bidding war in Hollywood, eventually selling to Warner Brothers for an undisclosed amount in 1986, pitching the movie as the Goonies versus vampires. Warner Brothers were eager to secure Richard Donner to direct the picture. Due to Donner's commitment to Lethal Weapon, he would take the role of executive producer and offered the director's chair to Mary Lambert. It was Lambert's intention to alter the characters to a more mature age, but due to creative differences, Lambert declined the position, but not before the script was redrafted by Jeffrey Boehm. The treated script would age the main characters to mid-teens and young adults and add many horror elements to the story. Fresh from directing the '85 Brad Pack movie St. Elmo's Fire, Joel Schumachers was initially reluctant, but saw great potential to Boehm's script and agreed to hit the project. Schumachers fully embraced the age and horror elements, but wanted to add sex appeal to the vampire characters and have them wear leather jackets and ride motorcycles, fully embracing the recently spawned MTV generation. Boehm's treatment vastly strayed from Fisher's original concept. Atop of the additional content added by Schumachers, original screenwriter Janice Fisher requested her name to be removed from the picture as it no longer resembled her work. To Fisher's annoyance, due to the rulings of the Writers Guild of America, her script had sold for an amount that legally obliged her to have her name featured. Since the debacle, Fisher saw the movie as something more than an original concept and has accepted the changes. To cast the movie, Schumachers wanted a mix of upcoming talent and quote-unquote beautiful faces. Corey Feldman was hired directly by Richard Donner, following their work together in '85's The Goonies. Corey Haim was an upcoming actor who'd received praise as a child actor in '85's Silver Bullet, a werewolf movie that shared similar themes. Jason Patric was a currently popular name from the movie SOLARBABIES. Patrick was initially reluctant to star, believing he was being exploited for his looks. After several days of Schumachers convincing Patrick, he eventually took the part. When casting Star, Schumachers intended a blonde. Jamie Gertz was recommended by Patrick, as he had developed a crush on her as his co-star in SOLARBABIES. It was the chemistry of the two actors that allowed Gertz the female lead. To cast the titular Lost Boys, Brooke McCarter was a fresh face in Hollywood. Billy Wirth was a fashion model looking to break into acting, and finally Alex Winter, who had just graduated from the NYU Film School. To cast the lead antagonist David, Schumachers had seen Kiefer Sutherland in the '86 crime drama At Close Range. Schumachers was drawn by Sutherland's presence and insisted he try for the part. Having just wrapped on Stephen King's Stand By Me, Sutherland landed the job. Funded by Warner Brothers for $8.5 million, The Lost Boys was given a release date of July 1987. Filming began on April 28, 1987. To home production, Santa Cruz, California was chosen for its landscapes and predictable weather. As the movie would contain several deaths, to obtain permission to film and not wanting to be associated with a movie that involved murder, there was a clause in the location contract that would not allow Santa Cruz to be referred to by name. During the 1970s, there had been several serial killers that reigned in Santa Cruz. Edmund Kemper, David Carpenter, and Herbert Mullen. Though unrelated, the three are responsible for over 30 murders in Santa Cruz, which was branded Murdersville by the media. Renamed by the production to Santa Carla, the beach boardwalk and cliffsides would become prominent locations in the movie. David's home was initially written as a cave, but Schumacher believed this to be far too uncivilized location for such a stylish character. This was changed to be a sunken hotel, one of two locations that were built at Warner Brothers Studios, the other being Grandpa's Lodge. To contribute to the rock themes of the picture, through Warner Brothers, Schumacher had access to saxophonist Tim Capello. On hiatus from touring with Tina Turner, Capello would contribute to the soundtrack with the song I Still Believe. Honing an 80s sex appeal, Schumacher would give Capello a cameo appearance early in the movie. Schumacher added several moments of foreshadowing. In the opening scene, when introducing the actual Lost Boys, the order they appear on screen would also be the reverse order of their demise. Also, during Edgar's speech about how vampires die, some yell and scream, some go quietly, some explode, and some implode. This would represent the deaths of the four main antagonists. For the scene under the bridge, the scene was shot from a forced perspective, actually only standing approximately 10 feet high. The ground was hidden by fog machines. What made this scene particularly difficult to film was the close proximity to Magic Mountain, which would bleed noise and neon lights into certain angles. The distant shots were filmed on a mock bridge. Aided by a harness and safety platforms, these shots would be spliced into the original footage to create the effect. The makeup effects were created by V. Neal and Greg Canham. As an avid monster movie fan, Canham was eager to reinvent the look of the classic vampire. Taking inspiration from the final appearance of Jerry Dandridge in 85's Fright Night, he designed a more monstrous appearance by accentuating certain facial features. Most noticeably would be the brow line. To make the design his own, he would relocate the vampire's fangs to the outer incisors and add smaller fangs to the canines. Typically in Hollywood, vampires would only have canine fangs. In Nosferatu, they appeared on the inner incisors. Interestingly, it was this look that would later inspire Joss Whedon when designing the antagonists in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Canham would also help revolutionize the use of contact lenses. The Lost Boys would be the first cinematic use of full hard lenses. The use of the contacts would also add an unexpected addition to Sutherland's performance. After the death of his brother Marco, David gives chase and sheds a tear. This was not intentional, but as a reaction to the contacts. As the tear fit the context of the scene, Schumacher thought he'd add more to the character and chose to leave it in the final cut. For the climax of the movie, Schumacher would focus the budget by executing elaborate deaths for each of the Lost Boys, showcasing the talents he learned from previous features. For David's demise, a full-body puppet was made to be rammed onto the antlers. David's death was intended to be ambiguous. By not having his body disintegrate could imply his possible return. Max would also go through several redesigns before his ultimate appearance and would also receive a full-body dummy to be rammed by Grandpa's truck. In the original script, for the closing shot of the movie, it would be revealed in the sunken hotel that there will be a painting of Max dating back to the early 1900s. This ending was never filmed and would be replaced with Grandpa's joke about hating Santa Carla. Filming ended on May 28th, and for the final touch of the movie, a short original score was written by Thomas Newman. To keep in part with the stylized visuals, Schumacher enlisted several rock vocalists. Along with Tim Capello, Echo and the Bunnymen, In Excess, and The Who's Roger Daltrey would all contribute to the soundtrack. Lou Gramm of Foreigner created the song Lost in the Shadows to be released alongside the movie, but would ultimately be greatly overshadowed by Gerard McMahon's Cry Little Sister. Also going by the name of G. Tom Mack, McMahon wrote the song without actually seeing the movie. Only having the script as a reference, he wrote the song from the perspective of a lonely child that longed for family. Featuring a youthful choir, gothic organs, and powerful vocals, Cry Little Sister would surpass all expectations and become a cult classic. The first rough cut was screened to an open test audience in Long Beach, California. Typically attracting no more than 200 members, Joel Schumacher was stunned to find in excess of 750 test audience members arrived to the event. Receiving an overwhelmingly positive response, The Lost Boys was completed and shipped to theaters in the summer of 1987. In the run-up to the movie's release, several promotions would be employed. Released 3 months earlier, in executive producer Richard Donner's summer blockbuster Lethal Weapon, there was a hidden Easter egg in the first act, a cinema marquee that read, "Lost Boys, this year's hit." To add to the promotion, toy company Topps released a series of trading cards that featured stills of the movie and random trivia facts. This was done to entice a younger adolescent audience. The movie saw its premiere on July 31st, 1987. Opening in over 1,000 theaters nationwide, The Lost Boys would go on to beat Hellraiser, Evil Dead 2, and even Predator, and receive the Saturn Award for Best Horror Film of 1987. For the full theatrical run, the movie grossed an impressive $32 million. Upon its home video rental release, The Lost Boys would earn a further $14 million and become one of the most rented movies of 1988. The movie would also boost the popularity of both Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, who would catch the attention of many filmmakers. Collectively known as the Two Coreys, Feldman and Haim would appear together in a further 6 productions. In response to the popularity of the location, the comic book store Atlantis Fantasy World would see a boom in business. Sadly destroyed in the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, owner Joe Ferrara, who received a bit part in the movie, relocated the store and still owns a copy of Vampires Everywhere, which he revealed is actually a vanity comic with a fake cover. The reviews of The Lost Boys were mostly positive, praising the picture on its writing and style. The movie reinvented the vampire genre. Prior to the release, vampire movies were seen as old-fashioned and outdated. The Lost Boys would make them pop culture icons and popularize the gothic subculture. The Lost Boys received a direct novel. Written by Craig Gardner, the book was a translation from script to paper and includes many of the missing scenes. Due to the limited run, it's become a highly sought-after collector's item and demands high prices on auction sites. There was also a script written for a sequel, known as The Lost Girls. The story would explain that David was not killed by the Antlers, as they missed his heart. Following the Frog Brothers as they opened a vampire extermination business, Schumacher made several attempts to get the script greenlighted, but sadly was never picked up. This concept would be further explored in the Wildstorm comic book, Reign of Frogs. The series would continue the story of Sam and the Frog Brothers and also introduce Shane, a new head vampire that was sired by David. The comic books would serve as a segue to 2008's Lost Boys, The Tribe. Starring Corey Feldman returning as Edgar Frog, the movie suffered poor writing at a budget half of the original. The Tribe received below-average reviews but still managed a second sequel. In 2010, The Thirst would give a bigger role to Jameson Newlander and was seen as a general improvement over The Tribe. The movie would also reveal the fate of Sam, but still being made to a low budget. The Thirst failed to capture an audience and sadly ended the series. There were no direct video games made for Lost Boys. However, there was a ROM hack for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Endorsed by Corey Feldman, The Frog Brothers was a reskin of Natsume's Shadow of the Ninja. You take control of Eleanor Edgar in a side-scrolling action platform game. Gerard McMahon's Cry Little Sister would receive many releases, most notably being the Eurotrance anthem I Need You Now by the Lost Brothers in 2003, new rock band Aiden in 2008, and an industrial remake by McMahon himself also in 2008. McMahon would also rework the piece into a dark country version to be used in the series True Blood in 2009. In response to the success of the movie, Santa Cruz hosts an annual free-to-attend screening of The Lost Boys. In June 2017, to celebrate the 30th anniversary, featuring performances from Corey Feldman, the event would reunite several members of the original cast and crew. 30 years have passed since the release of Lost Boys, and the movie continues to entertain new generations of horror fans. The movie has stood the test of time and has become a staple name in pop culture history. With the ever-growing popularity of the annual launch in Santa Cruz Beach, The Lost Boys will truly stay young forever. Be sure to like and share the video, and please consider subscribing for more. To follow Demented Pictures on social media, check the description box below. Also, if you want to help the show develop, please consider supporting the show through Patreon. You'll get behind-the-scenes updates and an opportunity to choose the next movie covered in the show. This is Mike from Demented Pictures. Thank you for watching.